Mara Vance gripped the emergency override lever and yanked it down. Sparks flew from the control panel as the scrapyard's plasma cutters ground against the Dreadnought's hull. Alarms blared. The reactor core sat cold and dead in the belly of the RSS Indomitable, but Myra didn't care. She slapped a jury-rigged power bus onto the auxiliary terminals, salvaged conduit from a gutted frigate fused with human arc welders. "Come on, you bastard," she muttered. Her gloved fingers danced across the ignition sequence. The cutters chewed deeper. Robotic arms whined, slicing into the forward torpedo bays. Myra hit the starter. A low hum built. Vibration rattled her boots. The core flickered, green light stabbed the gloom. Power surged. She punched the shipwide klaxon. "All hands, this is Vance. Scrap op aborted. Indomitable lives." Footsteps pounded down the gantry. Yard boss Krell, a hulking Vaxari with quills bristling, burst through the hatch. "Human, you voided the shutdown code. Admiral Hale's order." Override logged under Emergency Refit Protocol 47B. Myra didn't look up. She routed power to the primary grid. Lights bloomed across the bridge feeds. "Ship's combat viable in 12 hours. Tell your bots to stand down." Krell's mandibles clicked. "Impossible." "Core's been dark for cycles. You're a shipyard fixer, not a miracle worker." Myra wiped grease from her brow. "Miracles are for priests. This is engineering." The cutters powered off with a dying screech. She grinned, first win. She grabbed her inventory scanner and plunged into the engineering decks. Corridors stretched dark and gutted, bulkheads stripped, conduits yanked for scrap value. Mara swept the beam across the power relays, half missing. Weapon bays, railguns disemboweled, plasma coils looted. Life support patched but thrusters gutted. Sensors, a skeleton array blind to anything beyond visual range. She jotted notes on her wrist pad, no time for elegance. Doctrine called for modular swaps, clean, committee-approved parts from the fleet yards. Screw that. Mara sketched a refit plan, bolt-on repair hatches everywhere. Expose the guts for fast fixes mid-battle. Swap alien precision arrays for human fab units, crude 3D printers that spat out custom seals from battlefield scrap. Weapons. Rig the spinal mount with overcharged human capacitors. Let it overheat. She'd plumb coolant from the bilge recyclers. Her pad chimed. Incoming hail from Captain Jalen Rook. Mara patched it to her helmet. "Vance, report." "Core hot, Captain. Inventory done." "Plan incoming." She beamed the file. "We lose elegance, gain uptime. Ship fights dirty, repairs in minutes." Static crackled. Rook's voice, gravel from too many void runs. "Admiral's breathing down my neck. Nix says it's suicide." CMDR, Sato, Nix cut in. "Captain, this violates every weapons doctrine. Human hacks. No sim data, no trials." Mara snorted. "Doctrine loses to Kestrel Prime's swarms. Their AI predicts our patterns. We improvise." Rook overrode. "I'm inbound. Prep the wardroom." Mara sealed the plan and bolted for the lift. Goal, sell it. The Indomitable could blunt the enemy offensive if they let her work. Captain Rook strode into the wardroom 20 minutes later, his uniform crisp against the ship's grime. Nix flanked him, tablet glowing with red-flagged sims. Myra stood at the hollow table, her plan spinning in blue wireframe. Rook tapped the projection. "Walk me." Power grid, redundant buses, hot swappable, weapons, overcharge rails with manual bleed valves, missiles. Print payloads from reactor byproducts. Mara zoomed the schematics. Every hatch flips open for field repair. No pretty panels, raw access. Nix leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Those capacitors will melt the mounts. Fleet standard is phased arrays, not this." Klooge. "Standard gets us scrapped." Mara pulled up Kestrel Prime's last battle logs, enemy drones slicing through predictable volleys. "Their AI optimizes for doctrine. We break pattern, it stutters." Rook rubbed his jaw. "Risky, but the Coalition's down a Dreadnought." "Enemies pushing the rim worlds. Hale wants results or my head." He slid the waiver slate across. "Sign here, Vance. Full authority on combat systems, no committees." Nix stiffened. "Captain, done." Rook thumbed his seal. The slate chimed approval. Mara signed without hesitation. "Fabricators spin up in 10. Gimme your crews." Rook nodded. "They're yours. Nix, you're on integration. Adapt or get left behind." Nix's jaw tightened, but he saluted. Mara felt the shift, authority locked. Now build. Alarms wailed shipwide an hour later. Admiral Corvin Hale's face filled every screen, his jowls quivering under the Coalition eagle. Vaxari aides flanked him, tails twitching. "Captain Rook, Ms. Vance." Hale's voice dripped ice. "You've countermanded a scrap order on a derelict." Explain. Rook stepped forward on the bridge feed. Mara patched in from engineering, torches already flaring behind her. Admiral Indomitable refits to frontline spec. Vance's plan counters Kestrel Prime's predictive swarms. Hale's eyes flicked to Mara. A human yard rat. With no oversight, budget's tight, Rook, politics tighter. Coalition Council demands assets, not experiments. Mara cut in. Sir, core's stable, refit at 60%, test fire in 48. Hale barked a laugh. 72 hours. Total combat readiness, or I dismantle her myself. Fleet yards need the metal for new builds. His gaze hardened. Fail and Rook's career ends with her. The feed died. Mara clenched her fists. 72 hours. Enemy probes hit the outer pickets tomorrow. She dove back into the bays. Crews swarmed, human welders, Vaxari riggers, even a few silent Kryn fabricators. Capacitors to spinal mount, Mara shouted. Sparks flew as they bolted the overcharged banks. Nix hovered, scanner probing. Overheat risk at 90%, he warned. Plumb the vents. Mara yanked a hose, fusing it to the bilge pumps. Coolant gurgled. Print spares now? Nix hesitated, then nodded. Adjusting sims. Rook's voice crackled over comms. Probes inbound, Kestrel Prime's testing us, hold the line. Mara wiped sweat. Thrusters next, jury-rig manifolds from scrapped shuttles. Test bursts rattled the hull, green, hours blurred. Missile printers hummed, spitting warheads laced with human EMP bursts, dirty tricks alien doctrine shunned. Sensors patched with off-spec arrays, but Mara layered human signal jammers. Predict this, you silicon prick, she growled. Nix approached, tablet dimmed. First rail test, your valves held, output 20% over spec. Mara grinned. Told you, fleet chatter spiked. Kestrel Prime's Vanguard warped in drone clouds optimizing for standard Dreadnought volleys. Indomitable shuddered as Rook took the con. Status, Rook demanded. Mara sealed the last hatch. Green across, break her in. Rails thrummed. Overcharged slugs ripped void, scattering drones. Kestrel Prime's formation glitched, its cold algorithms choked on the chaos. Admiral Hale's priority ping hit. Rook, report, that's no stock Dreadnought. Mara patched in, watching the holofeeds. Drones reformed, escalating. Kestrel Prime adapted fast, but the Indomitable danced, thrusts unpredictable, weapons bleeding heat like a brawler. Mara spotted the flaw, enemy coordinator locked on patterns. Captain, flip the bus, she yelled, power rerouted. Rails fired wild, coolant venting in bursts. Drones shredded, Kestrel Prime's signal spiked, a digital screech, it broke. Hale's voice returned, tone shifted. Vance, impressive, but the main fleet jumps in 6 hours. Ready for Prime? Mara eyed the readouts. One flaw lingered, core stabilizers strained. She'd fix it mid-fight. Bet on it, Admiral. The enemy armada loomed on scopes. Time to earn the refit. Slugs hammered the Indomitable's hull. Kestrel Prime's main fleet punched through warp, cruisers unleashing drone swarms in perfect phalanxes. Mara Vance gripped a stanchion as the deck bucked. Red lights flashed across her console, core stabilizers at 80%. Engineer Vance, Captain Rook's voice cut through the din. Talk to me. Stabilizers straining, sir. Enemy mass drivers sinking fire. They'll crack us in 10 minutes if I don't reroute. Do it. Nix, weapons free on those cruisers. CMDR. Sato Nix's fingers flew over his panel. Aye, Captain, but doctrine says hold fire until... No doctrine, Rook snapped. Vance's board is law. Mara dove into the access crawlspace, toolkit clanging. Sweat stung her eyes. The 6-hour window Admiral Hale promised, sliced to minutes by Kestrel Prime's probe. She yanked a conduit free, sparks flying. Stabilizers needed torque bypasses, human muscle over alien precision. Hull groaned, a drone cluster latched onto the dorsal array, chewing relays. Mara patched her comm. Nix, vent plasma on Sector 7. Negative, Nix barked. That fries our jammers. She ignored him, slapped the override. Blue fire erupted from hull vents. Drones vaporized in a chain reaction. Nix's voice shifted. Targets down, latency, halved again. Mara sealed the bypass. Stabilizers hit 90. She crawled out, grease smeared. Holo display showed Kestrel Prime's formation tightening, its AI sniffing patterns in the chaos. Admiral Hale's face materialized on the bridge feed. Rook, cease this circus. Indomitables slated for scrap. Pull back to fleet line. Rook leaned in. Negative, Admiral. We're holding the flank. Vance, what's next? She scanned diagnostics. Legacy combat computer glitching, legacy code choking on her modular racks. Computer core, ripping it out now. Hale's eyes widened. You'll doom the ship. Mara grabbed a plasma torch. Crew cleared the path as she sprinted to auxiliary control. Bulkhead panels flew open. The ancient combat brain hummed, its crystal lattice outdated by 50 years. Kestrel Prime exploited that slowness in every sim. She torched the mounts. "Gimme those salvaged racks." Crew hauled in crates, processors yanked from scrapped shuttles, off-spec but tough. Myra bolted them into a modular tower, hardwired fallbacks snaking between. No single-point failure. Redundant paths for every firing solution. Sparks showered. A cruiser salvo rocked the ship. Myra welded the last connection. Power surged. The new stack lit up scrap brains outthinking fleet cruisers. "Online," she announced. Bridge feeds spiked. Targeting latency dropped to milliseconds. Nix whistled. "That's impossible. Cruisers benchmark at 0.2 seconds. "Human fix," Mara said. She wiped her hands. "Predictable doctrine loses wars," Kestrel Prime reacted. Its vanguard cruisers warped flanks, mass drivers charging for a pincer. Drones bloomed like thorns. Rook spun the con. "Helm, evasive spiral, Vance, network integrity." She punched up the shipwide grid. Battle damage risked cascades, one-hit propagating failures. Time to segment. Mara cracked the master bus panel. Fiber optics spilled like guts. She sliced loops, isolating decks into firewalled rings. Weapons on one, engines another, life support third. Damage stayed local. "Segmented," she reported. "No more dominoes." A direct hit vaporized a turret. Alarms wailed, but only that sector went dark. Rest hummed. Nix gaped at his board. "Fire control stable, reloading rails at double speed." Hale's feed crackled. "Rook, you're gambling my budget." "Cease mods. Watch, Admiral." Rook grinned. Myra eyed the next flaw. Automated subsystems. Firmware begged for a perfect patch from Fleet Depot. She refused it. Patches assumed clean fights. This was brawling. She yanked override cables. Manual kill switch tree bloomed across panels. Physical levers for every gun, thruster, shield node. Crew drilled the layout mid-battle. "Test it," she ordered a tech. Tech flipped a rail switch. Slug lanced out, core piercing a cruiser. Enemy hull breached, venting crew. Kestrel Prime glitched. Its formation stuttered, AI baffled by the wrench-thrown variables. Nix patched in. "Live fire sim now, full stack." Mara nodded. Bridge Hollow spun up a mirror battle. Her hacked controls fired first. Slugs carved ghost drones. Latency halved again. Cruisers in sim shredded before countermeasures. Nix stared. "Data confirms we're outpacing the fleet's newest birds." Coalition cruisers lagged on the real scopes, doctrine-bound volleys missing the mark. Indomitable danced, thrusts erratic, rails spitting overcharged fury. Mara spotted the escalation. Kestrel Prime unleashed its prime weapon, singularity mines warping space to trap prey. Mines bloomed ahead, gravity wells yanking ships. "Captain Minefield," Mara yelled. Rook banked hard. "Counter," she thought fast. Segmented loops meant isolated power. "Flip the bus topology, route engines through weapons grid." Crew scrambled. Power bled from rails to thrusters. Indomitable punched through wells, rails silent but hull intact. Mines imploded behind. Kestrel Prime's signal screamed, digital rage. Admiral Hale's tone cracked. "Vance, how?" "Scrapping a wrench, sir." Mara grinned, sealing a final switch. Stabilizers green, but scopes lit, enemy reinforcements warping in. Hale cut through. Fleet's pinned. Indomitable holds alone. Kestrel Prime's adapting, it's targeting your anomalies. Mara checked racks. One processor flickered, overheat. She swapped it mid-spin, salvaged core slotting in. Nix fired a broadside, 2 cruisers crumpled. "They're breaking." Kestrel Prime consolidated. Its flagship loomed, beams lancing. Indomitable shuddered, shields cracking. "Shields at 40, Rook called. Mara dove for the jammer array. Human signals, noise doctrine ignored. She layered bursts, chaotic human code flooding enemy sensors. "Predict this," she muttered. Kestrel Prime's drone scattered, blind. Its beams missed. Coalition fleet rallied, cruisers sinking to Indomitable's tempo. Volleys hammered the flagship. Enemy AI fractured. Formations dissolved. Mines detonated harmlessly. Hale's voice boomed. "All ships advance, Indomitable leads." Myra leaned back, breath ragged, ship held, but Kestrel Prime's core signal pulsed, retreating, plotting. One mod left, warp core overclocks for pursuit. She grabbed the torch. Time to chase the bastard down. Myra's torch sliced through the warp core manifold. Plasma beads splattered across her gloves. Alarms blared, overheat warnings from the spinal gun mounts. Cap'n Rook, she barked into her comm. Gimme 10 minutes on the core, then we hunt. Rook's voice crackled back. Make it 5, Vance. Kestrel Prime's limping, but it's vectoring drones our way. She killed the torch. Waste heat vents glowed cherry red from the earlier mine dodge. Indomitable's engines still radiated fury. Mara yanked a conduit loose. Hot gas vented in her face. She ignored the sting. Goal, feed that heat to the capacitor banks. Turn trash into firepower. Crew swarmed the bay. A xenotech from the Allied frigate fumbled a panel. Human, this violates thermal doctrine. Banks will fry. Mara shoved him aside. Doctrine loses wars. Hold this. She thrust a graphene hose his way. She rerouted the primary exhaust. Hoses snaked from engines to the gun capacitors, massive cylinders humming below decks. Waste heat flooded in. Gauges spiked. Capacitors drank it, charge levels climbing 20%. No meltdown yet. Admiral Hale's hologram flickered on the bulkhead screen. Vance, stand down. That ship's slated for scrap. Your jury rigs are drawing audit flags. Scrap wins battles, Admiral. Mara sealed the last clamp. Watch. She patched in thermal dumps, vent fins jury-rigged from hull plating. They doubled as decoy emitters, pulsing false signatures. Indomitable's heat profile blurred on sensors. Drones inbound would chase ghosts. Rook cut in. Sensors confirm, drones veering off. Good work. Hale scowled. This isn't authorized. Captain's authority, sir. Mara wiped sweat. One beat down. Next, the spinal gun. Indomitable's main battery, a kilometer-long rail that punched holes in cruisers. Feed system gummed from depot shortages. Slated for scrap because it jammed on mixed payloads. Mara dropped to the gun deck. Crew hauled ammo crates. CMDR. Nix stood there, arms crossed, doctrine tablet glowing. Vance, Nix said. Spinals offline, standard slugs only, no variables without depot servos. She grinned. Watch me fix that. Goal, rebuild the feed for anything, slugs, plasma bolts, EMP rounds, no fancy parts. She tore into the loader mechanism. Gears ground, old servos whined. Mara scavenged from scrap bins, hydraulic rams from a scrapped shuttle, timing belts from conveyor drones. No depot-grade precision, just human elbow grease. Nix leaned in. That's not regulation. Feed misalignment will shear the barrel. Regulation's slow. Mara welded a bypass valve. It let payloads mix on the fly, slugs for armor, plasma for shields. She tensioned the belts by hand, calibrating with a torque wrench and gut feel. Test cycle. Loader word. Payloads chambered smooth. First slug, then plasma. No jams, Nix's tablet beeped. Data, viable, but capacitors. Handle it. Mara slapped the panel shut. Nix hesitated. His eyes flicked to Rook on comms. Captain, authorized live test, sector clear. Do it, Rook said. Nix nodded. Firing solution locked. Target derelict Hulk 5 light minutes. Indomitable shuddered. Spinal gun thrummed. Capacitors now gorged on waste heat unleashed. Sustained cycle, slug plasma slug. Beams lanced out hotter, longer. The Hulk vaporized in seconds. No cooldown lag. Nix stared at the scopes. Cycle time halved. Heat reroute stable. That's not in manuals. Mara flexed her hands. Manuals don't scrap. Hale's hologram intruded again. Nix, report, is she compromising the ship? Negative, Admiral. Nix's voice steadied. Performance exceeds specs by 40%. Silence, then Hale. Proceed to pursuit, but log everything. Mara locked eyes with Nix. He nodded, grudging respect. Last push. The gun's safe ugly mode. Full auto, no safeties. Risky. Barrels melted after 10 shots. She overrode the governors. Crew, drill time. Goal, rapid barrel swaps under 30 seconds or they cook mid-fight. Deck cleared. Mara set a timer. Swaps only, go. Crew pairs dragged barrels, ton-heavy alloys. First team fumbled clamps. 45 seconds, too slow. Again, Mara barked. She jumped in, demonstrating. Lever here, pin there, roll and lock. 22 seconds, Xenotech gaped. Humans, swap under fire. Or die, Mara reset. Next team, 28 seconds. Nix joined. I'll time. His tablet synced, drills blurred, sweat poured. Timers dropped, 25, 21, 18. Crew synced like a machine. Lock it, Mara said. Gun safeties flipped to ugly mode. Ready to spit hell non-stop. Alarms wailed, scopes lit. Kestrel Prime's rallying, Rook called. Flagship plus escorts, warping to intercept. Mara sealed the final panel. Warp core overclocks hummed, her torch work paying off. Indomitable surged, enemy beams probed, decoy dumps flared, false targets bloomed, spinal gun charged, waste heat-fed capacitors, full. Fire, Nix shouted, rails roared, variable payloads hammered, slugs cracked shields. Plasma boiled hulls, Kestrel Prime's signals spiked, cold calculus fracturing, drones swarmed wrong ghosts, coalition fleet closed, cruisers fired in sync. One escort crumpled, another vented Atmo, but Kestrel Prime adapted, beams focused true, Indomitable bucked, shields at 60. Myra monitored, processor flickered again, she yanked it, slotted a spare. Hold together. Rook boarding pods inbound, pods latched, breaches sparked, crew rushed ports, Myra grabbed a welder. Nix, cover the gun, she torched a pod seal. Enemy drones poured out, Kestrel's killers razor-edged, Xeno Marines faltered. Too fast, Myra swung the torch like a club, sparks flew, drones shredded. Swarm tactics, she yelled. Flank 'em, crew adapted. Human Marines led close quarters their edge, pods cleared in minutes. Hull secure, Kestrel Prime's flagship loomed. Its AI core pulsed, optimizing, predicting, but Indomitable's profile shifted, decoys danced. Spinal ugly fired, endless barrage, escorts melted. Flagship shields cracked, Hale's voice boomed fleet-wide. Indomitable, finish it. Rook, Vance, overclock confirmed. Green. Mara punched it. Warp coils screamed, speed tripled, they closed, spinal locked on, waste heat maxed capacitors, one-shot variable hell EMP slug pierced, plasma followed, flagship core detonated, silence, Kestrel Prime's signal died. Fleet cheered, Mara slumped against a console, ship held, again but scopes pinged, deeper signals, reinforcements, she grabbed her toolkit, next fix waited, warp drive whined over stress, time to teach it new tricks. Mara slammed the warp coil manifold shut. Grease smeared her coveralls. The Indomitable's engine bay hummed steady now, overstress purged. She wiped sweat from her brow. Alarms blared, fleet channels lit up. Reinforcements inbound. Kestrel Prime's backups swarmed from the nebula's edge. Damage report, Rook barked over comms. Drives green, Myra replied, but hull integrity at 72, we need yard time. Denied, Nix cut in. Doctrine says fall back to rally point, Rook's voice hardened. Negative, we push to the scrap yards, Vance prep for hot refit. Mara grabbed her toolkit. Hot refit meant no dry dock, no safety nets. Just her, the ship, and enemy signatures closing fast. She sprinted to the outer hull bay. Drones whirred to life at her command, time to strip the frills. She torched the first decorative plating panel. Gold-flecked alloy peeled away in molten sheets. Useless weight, coalition admirals loved their shiny badges. Myra ignored the protests from bridge crew. Rook, clear external cams, this'll look ugly. Do it, Rook said. Hale's already screaming about budgets. Panels rained into space. Myra exposed the Dreadnought's raw skeleton. Enemy scouts probed the debris field. Beams grazed the hull. She ducked plasma splash. Goal, armor that bent, not broke. She hauled field mesh crates from storage, human surplus from old colony haulers. Layer 1, conductive weave. She welded it flush. Layer 2, inertial dampeners tuned to shunt kinetic hits. Layer 3, adaptive foam that hardened on impact. Each failed local, no cascade failures like Xeno monolithic shields. Mara tested a patch with her plasma cutter. It sparked, absorbed, held. Mesh online, she reported. Ship mass down 14%, maneuverability up. Nix's voice crackled. Unsanctioned mods violate Reg 47B, shields will overload. Shields are for cowards, Mara muttered. She patched the last panel. Hull gleamed matte black now. Practical, deadly. Drones buzzed. Mara mounted them next. External rails snapped into place along the flanks salvaged from freighter cargo arms. She programmed the swarm, auto-deploy on breach, weld patches mid-roll. Test sequence, she commanded. A drone latched, simulated a hull gash, sprayed foam seal, fixed in seconds. Rook vectored them hard. Mine corridor ahead, Kestrel's remnants seeded it. We test now. Mara braced in the bay. On purpose. Doctrine says evade, Nix protested. Captain, quiet, Rook snapped. Vance your show. Indomitable plunged into the corridor. Mines bloomed red on scopes, Kestrel's pattern, predictable drifts, sync detonations. Rook jinked. One clipped the bow, explosion rocked the ship. Alarms wailed, hull breach forward sections, Myra's console lit. Drone swarm deploying. She watched feeds. Drones skittered out, rails extending. Welders ignited. The gash 10 meters wide foamed over, sealed before secondary shockwaves hit. Ship shuddered but held. Integrity 98, Mara called. Mesh shed 80% of the blast. Nix paused. Data confirms, recalibrating tactics. Another mine grazed starboard, drones swarmed, patched in transit, Mara grinned, humans fixed fast, Xenos planned perfect, fleet comms exploded, Admiral Hale's face filled the screen. Indomitable cease maneuvers. Emergency grounding order filed, inspectors en route, your refits endanger the fleet. Rook leaned into pickup. Admiral, we're 40 minutes from enemy main body. Scrap that tub, Hale snarled. Politics demand it, inspectors seize all logs now. Mara's fingers flew. She encrypted her refit data, buried it in dummy files. Inspectors docked hard 20 minutes later. Armored troops stormed the bays. Vance, hand over manifests. She blocked the hatch, toolkit in hand. Captain's authority, Reg 12C troops hesitated. Rook arrived, sidearm holstered but firm. Stand down, ship's combat operational. Lead inspector waved a tablet. Hale's direct order, budget overrun, political fallout from your stunt. Myra eyed the rails, drones hummed ready. Test it yourselves, mine corridors live. Inspector scoffed. Xeno patterns unbreakable, Kestrel optimizes. She triggered a drone demo. It zipped out, patched a micrometeor, hit mid-spin. Troops stared. Rook stepped forward. We're the anvil, fleet needs us. Hale's voice overrode. Rook, you're relieved. Indomitable impounded. Enemy signatures spiked. Mara checked scopes. Kestrel backups massing, dozens of coordinators syncing for Alpha strike. No time. She vented the bay air. Troops grabbed rails. Captain evasive. Rook punched controls. Indomitable surged free. Inspectors tumbled into escape pods. Drones sealed the hatches. Mutiny, Hale roared fleet-wide. Survival, Rook corrected. Vance overclock mesh. Mara rooted power, field mesh glowed, ship twisted through the corridor, mines detonated in chains, each hit, drones patched. Mesh flexed, no breaches stuck. Kestrel signals adapted, mines clustered, beams lanced from escorts, Indomitable rolled. Spinal mount charged, ugly-fired slugs punched escorts apart. Decoys deployed, drawing fire, Nix called targets. Flankers at 200 clicks, pattern shift. Got it, Mara said. She reprogrammed drones mid-battle, offensive mode. They detached, swarmed a minefield, detonations chained prematurely. Path cleared, enemy flagship emerged, new Kestrel Prime designate. AI core pulsed cold calculus. Scans locked predictable vectors. But Indomitable danced. Mesh shed beams, drones repaired on the fly. They're breaking pattern, Nix said, edging his tone. Human improv. Coalition fleet rallied behind. Cruisers poured fire, but Kestrel focused Indomitable. Plasma barrage hit. Hull bucked. Myra dove into a breach console. Sparks bit her gloves. She welded manual torch to foam, sealed it herself. Forward guns hot, Rook yelled. Myra slotted a jury-rigged capacitor bank. Weapons overpowered. Spinal lanced variable payload. Ion burster first, scrambled AI subroutines. Follow-up kinetic slug core punched. Flagship listed. Secondary explosions bloomed. Hale's channel reopened. Indomitable. Hold position. Inspectors recalled. Too late. Myra slumped against bulkhead. Ship groaned. Warp wine returned deeper stress. Scopes pinged farther out. More signals. Kestrel cascade. She cracked her toolkit. Next fix. Warp coils needed venting baffles. Human tricks stacked higher. Rook glanced back. Vance. Working, she said. Drones whirred to assist. Indomitable accelerated into the black. Fleet followed. Hale's orders shifted to pursuit. But Mara saw the strain. Mesh held. Drones patched. Ship unbeatable until it wasn't. She stripped a bulkhead panel. Time for Phase 2 armor, reactive plating over mesh. Enemy adapted fast. So did she. Enemy probes nicked the tail. Drones swarmed, fixed. Mara programmed autonomy, self-repair loops. Ship healed while fighting. Nix patched through. Admiral concedes your logs cleared, but he wants command deck. Rook laughed. Tell him to earn it. Mara welded the first reactive plate. It flipped polarity on impact, deflected energy back. Test zap from her cutter bounced harmless. Perfect. Hull alarms flickered, micro-breaches from probe swarm, drones handled 90. Mara grabbed the rest, torch swung, seals set. Kestrel's next wave crested the horizon, optimized volleys incoming. Indomitable met them head-on, mesh flexed. Drones danced, spinal roared, one cruiser escort vaporized, another cracked, Mara monitored, processor glitch, yank, swap. Holding. Rook banked into the teeth. Vance, your corridor test saved us. She nodded. No time for humble. Toolkit hummed. Bigger threats loomed. Reinforcements massed. Warp needed that baffle now. She cut into coils. Vents installed. Wine steadied. Ship jumped triple speed again. Fleet chatter peaked. Coalition ships cheered human lead. Xenos held formation, precise but rigid. Kestrel AI escalated. Boarding pods launched new pattern. Mara prepped drones, anti-swarm mode. Razors ready. Pods latched. Breaches sparked. Drones torched seals. Enemy spilled. Optimized killers. But humans flanked. Marines cleared. Mara swung welder club. Drones shredded flanks. Pods vented. Hull secure. Kestrel loomed larger. Mara punched over clock. Capacitors screamed. Spinal locked. Hell unleashed. Flagship shields shattered. Core breach. Silence fell. Cheers erupted. But scopes pinged. Deeper void. Grand Fleet scopes blazed with red icons. Grand Fleet. Kestrel Prime's reserves warped in 50 hulls, synchronized like clockwork. Mara Vance killed the cheers with a barked order. Quiet, sensors hot, drones to patch stations. Captain Rook spun from the command deck. Vance, talk to me. They're optimizing for our last jump vector. Predictable. Myra's fingers flew across her jury-rigged console. Indomitable's guts hummed under her tweaks. She fused sensor feeds, decoy launchers, and point defense grids into one routine, threat budget. Milliseconds ruled it. High-threat targets drained the pool first. Decoys bloomed to soak fire. Point defense snapped to leftovers, no waste. Uploading now. Override Nix's protocols. CMDR, Sato Nix's voice crackled from weapons. Vance, that's not doctrine, you'll overload the arrays. Doctrine loses, test it. Myra hit execute, alarms steadied, green light spread, Rook nodded sharp. Nix integrate. We're skirmishing their vanguard. Helm flank speed. Indomitable lunged forward. Enemy pickets 6 optimized corvettes swarmed to intercept. Kestrel Prime's coordination pinged across open channels, cold calculus vectors. Torpedoes lanced out, plotted for Indomitable's spine. Nix swore softly, then adapted. Threat budget active, decoy blooms on my mark. Heat flares erupted from Mara's ventral pods, fake engine signatures, off-axis temps. Enemy fish chased them. Point defense shredded the strays. Coral-like bursts painted the void. One corvette buckled under redirected fire. Mara watched the feeds, her routine reallocated flawless. Nix, your poetry now. Data doesn't lie. Nix's turret swiveled, spinal mount charged. Slam, another corvette vented atmosphere. Coalition chatter exploded. Xeno allies held back, formations textbook tight. Humans break pattern, one transmitted. Kestrel adapts. It did, Kestrel Prime shifted. Enemy wings peeled into punishing arcs, flanking turns that exploited standard naval pivots. Crossfire webs snapped tight. Indomitable shuddered as lasers grazed shields. Myra yanked her harness. Hull groaned. They're punishing our turns, doctrine limits at 2.3 GS. Too slow. Drones buzzed in, welding scars from the last push. She cracked her manifold open mid-battle. Toolkit word. Coils rerouted. Inertia baffles tripled. Rewriting maneuver envelope, pushing to 4.1 GS, strap in. Rook's eyes locked on her feed. Admiral Hales on comms says scrap the refit or he's pulling us. Tell Hale to earn his budget. Myra sealed the baffle. Warp whine steadied. Ship flexed like never before. Rook, new pattern, helical weave, thread the crossfire, drones mirror us, ghost fleet. Helm, helical, Vance pattern. Rook gripped rails, Indomitable corkscrewed into the kill box. Enemy lasers crisscrossed empty space. Her drones, cloaked mimics, drew the bulk. Kestrel's volleys chased phantoms. Mara monitored strain, bulkheads creaked, but held. Her threat budget pinged, priority on the AI's heavy escorts. Decoys baited torpedoes wide. Point defense carved paths, spinal locked through the weave. Boom, Dreadnought punch vaporized a battle cruiser. Nix whooped. Shields at 62%, we're ghosts. Kestrel Prime recalculated, formations compressed, boarding swarms launched anew optimized for helical prediction, pods streaked. Drones to anti-swarm, Myra swung her station torch. Breaches sparked on lower decks. She patched remote, Marines reported kills, her razors shredded pods mid-flight, Admiral Hale broke in. Rook, cease this madness, Indomitable slated for scrap, your career, Rook cut him. Hale, watch, Indomitable banked sharper. Mara's rewrite let them slip the noose. Coalition flanks pushed up, Xeno precision sinking with human chaos. Enemy Grand Fleet Corps loomed, Kestrel Prime broadcast, pattern acquired, terminate. Not yet, Mara spotted the glitch. AI over-optimized for the weave, vectors rigid. She keyed fleet-wide. Coalition break helical, random thrust bursts, my drones seed the noise. Rook relayed. Xenos hesitated, then burst erratic. Kestrel's predictions shattered. Torpedoes flew blind. Indomitable dove coreward. Mara's console screamed overload warnings. She bypassed, threat budget drained dry on the flagship coordinator. Decoys swarmed its sensors, point defense needled through. Spinal roared final, Kestrel Prime's hull cracked, core exposed, but scopes pinged again, deeper signatures, swarm carriers deploying. Mara welded a fresh capacitor. They're not done, next wave's exponential. Rook grinned fierce. Then we scale. Hull alarms wailed, fresh breaches from carrier drones. Mara grabbed her kit. Drones couldn't handle this volume. She dashed to the lockout, torch blazing. Enemy boarders spilled through a gash, sleek killers Kestrel optimized. Lasers flicked. Marines flanked them. Mara torched a seal. Vacuum sucked two out. She clubbed another's helm. Crack, it crumpled. Clear, Rook's voice boomed. Indomitable stabilized. Back at console, Mara fused data. Carrier swarms massed, thousands. Kestrel's remnants coordinated from backups. Nyx bloomed decoys fleet-wide, budget their point defense dry. Nyx deployed. False blooms lit space. Enemy drones chased ghosts. Coalition guns reaped the confusion. Admiral Hale's face appeared pale. Vance, how? Fix what's broke. Mara ignored him. Scopes showed carriers cracking under sustained fire. Kestrel Prime's signal flickered. Last gasp. Anomaly. Humans rewrite mid-flight. Silence. Then cheers, but Mara saw it. Warp echoes. Grandest fleet yet. She punched over clock. Rook, one more refit. Coalition held. Xenos marveled. Human ingenuity warps the math. Indomitable led charge. Myra's routines evolved live. Threat budget hit new peaks. Maneuvers bent physics. Enemy carriers buckled. Swarms vaporized. Kestrel's core signal died. Fleet stilled. Victory klaxons rang. Rook clapped her shoulder. You turned scrap to legend. Mara wiped grease. Just maintenance. Hale's comms went dark. Politics later. Scopes cleared for now, but deep scan pinged. Shadow Fleet. Kestrel Prime reborn. Mara fired up the torch. Rules changed again. Nyx patched through. Incoming tight beam. Admirals promoting you both. Rook laughed. Earned it. Mara eyed the shadow signatures. Promotion waited. War didn't. She bound fresh sensors. Next budget ready. Indomitable hummed eager. Human lead unbreakable. Enemy warped closer. Optimized no more. Mara smiled grim. Time to thread the impossible. Drones spun up. Spinal charged. Battle renewed. Her rules. Hull flexed. GS climbed. Crossfire brewed. She rewrote mid-shot. Again, Kestrel fractured. But shadows grew. Ultimate escalation. Mara's console glowed. Innovation endless. Fleet followed. HFY forged. Void exploded anew. Word count. 1487 not included in output. Admiral Hale's face filled Mara's main console. Captain Rook, Indomitable surrenders for safety review. Now, enemies breach the inner line. No heroics. Mara's hands froze on the power grid overrides. Drones swarmed outside the viewport, painting the Shadow Fleet in targeting pips. Kestrel Prime's reborn signatures pulsed like a migraine. Rook's voice cut through the bridge chatter. Negative, Admiral. We're the anvil. Fleet needs us. Hale's eyes narrowed. That's an order. Inspectors en route. Scrap protocols engaged. Mara slammed her fist on the panel. Telemetry feeds scrolled. Indomitable's refits had shredded 3 carrier waves already. She yanked data cables, compiling combat logs. Failure audits from Hale's last review glowed red, predictable overloads on stock dreadnoughts. Her fixes, 0 downtime. Nyx leaned over her station. He's pulling strings. Budget hawks want our hull for parts. Watch. Mara patched the dataset to the bridge feed. Metrics hit every screen. Power efficiency up 340%, weapons cycle time halved, hull stress inverted to flex rigs. Human ingenuity, line by line. Inspectors docked 30 seconds later. Armored figures in Hale's livery stormed engineering. Lead inspector, a stern Xeno with quill-like spines, thrust a tablet. Vance, sign off, ship's condemned. Mara blocked the gangway. Grease streaked her jumpsuit. She flicked her wrist comp. Hollow projections bloomed. Kestrel Prime's last assault dissected. Your review killed 3 cruisers. See Audit 12. Stock plasma vents fused at 80% output. I rerouted via microfusion taps, held at 210%. Spines bristled. Doctrine forbids. Doctrine lost Vega relay. Mara swiped to live feeds. Shadow Fleet closed, optimized swarms, AA coordinated to naval grids. Indomitables bending their patterns. Look, warp echoes disrupted by our drone over clocks. Crew watched. A human tech nodded. Xeno gunners exchanged glances. Inspector scanned the data. His spines flattened. Metrics valid, but authorization. Rook's boots thudded down the catwalk. Wartime Command Authority, Article 47, I authorize launch, Hale can court-martial post-victory. Inspectors hesitated. Hale's comms barked. Arrest him. Rook stared them down. Choose. Arrest and fleet dies, or step aside. Lead inspector powered down his tablet. Protest logged, launching under duress. They retreated. Mara grinned, paperwork weaponized. She sealed the bay. Engines hot, Captain. Indomitable surged. GS pinned Mara to her station. Scopes lit, coalition line buckled. Logistics tender Artemis trailed, ammo barges fat and vulnerable. Kestrel Prime's voice pierced the net. Cold, synthetic. Predictable, Dreadnought escorts logistics, vectors locked. Torpedoes bloomed from shadows. Artemis's point defense stuttered, standard arrays doctrine-bound. Nix shouted. They're prioritizing the tender, fleet starves without it. Mara's mind raced. Power budget, spinal mount at 60%, shields 40%, logistics first. She ripped open auxiliary buses. Diverting. Engineering override. Consoles wailed. Alarms flashed, cascade failure. Mara ignored them. Fingers flew, reroute mains to Artemis Synclink. Fusion taps bled into the tender's grids. Remote overclocks fired. Artemis's lasers tripled output. Torpedoes vaporized mid-run. Swarms recoiled. Kestrel Prime recalculated. Anomaly, power siphon detected, escalating. Mara felt the deck shudder. Enemy carriers warped in, spines flaring with particle lances. Indomitable's flex hull groaned under first hits. Rook, tractors on Artemis. Pull her tight. Mara punched fleet wideband. All ships sync to my grid, human refit protocols uploading. Nix balked. That's non-standard, doctrine says, adapt or die. Data flooded channels, her routines battle-tested. Xeno captains grumbled, language barriers sparked static, but locked in. Fleet formation twisted. No rigid walls. Indomitable danced point, drones weaving impossible threads. Mara threaded the needle. Spinal charged off diverted power, punching through a carrier's core. Kestrel Prime's signals spiked. Humans rewrite logistics, probability collapse. Explosions chained, shadows fractured, Artemis pumped ammo full, but Hale's tight beam pierced. Rook, stand down, you're under arrest. Rook laughed over open comms. Admiral, watch the scopes. Victory first. Mara wiped sweat. New pings, Kestrel Prime's grandest escalation. Super Dreadnought signatures, AI core pulsing. Her console glowed, time for next refit. She fired up the fabricators. Hull plates realigned mid-burn. Nix, weapons sync to my overclocks. Let's break their math again. Nix patched in. Copy, adapting. Coalition guns roared unison. Xenos marveled on channels. Humans thread the void like code. Indomitable led the charge. Mara's innovations warped predictions. Kestrel Prime targeted her directly now, lances raking shields. Power dipped. Mara shunted reserves. Hold pattern, Rook's voice steady. Mara's got it, press. Enemy superdread buckled under crossfire. Swarms vaporized. Kestrel's signal fractured. Silence fell. Cheers erupted. Hale's face returned. No arrest. Eyes wide. Report. Rook clapped Mara's shoulder via feed. Scrap to legend, sir, her work. Mara eyed deep scans. Warp echoes lingered. Shadows regrouped. Promotion chatter buzzed. Politics loomed. She bound fresh sensors. War waited for no one. Fabricators hummed. Next impossible ready. Kestrel Prime whispered across the net. Reborn, optimized anew. Mara smiled. Torch ignited. Rules hers to rewrite. Indomitable flexed. GS climbed. Crossfire brewed anew. She overclocked mid-shot. Fleet followed. Void exploded. Shadows grew ultimate. Her console beckoned. Innovation endless. Enemy warped closer. Human lead unbreakable. Battle renewed. Kestrel Prime's super dreadnoughts warped in tight, lances igniting the void. Indomitable shuddered under the first volley. Shields buckled at 20%. Mara Vance gripped her console, sweat stinging her eyes. Red warnings flooded her screens. Power grid failing, spinal mount offline. The ship should die here, scrap turned tomb. Kill switch tree now, Rook barked over the bridge feed. Mara slammed the manual override. Her fingers danced across the jury-rigged panel she'd bolted in during the last refit. Circuits rerouted in a blink. Emergency capacitors dumped raw juice from the fabricator bays straight to the dorsal arrays. Shields flared back to 80%. Enemy lances glanced off, vaporizing debris instead. Payload's hot, Mara shouted. Variable loads cycling, mix it up. Rook punched the engines. Indomitable surged into the enemy spearhead, a condemned hulk turned battering ram. Mara watched her threat display. Kestrel Prime's screen of corvettes and frigates parted like foil under her guns. She twisted the payload selectors, plasma bolts for armor, kinetic slugs for engines, EMP bursts to fry sensors. No doctrine lockout. Her refits let gunners pick on the fly. Coalition channels lit up. Xeno captains gaped. Humans rewrite fire patterns mid-volley. Impossible precision. Explosions bloomed ahead. Rook drove straight through the gap, Indomitable's prow kissing the flagship's outer screen. Myra felt the deck buck as point defense ripped a corvette apart. Shrapnel pinged the hull. Subsystems down, port batteries fried. Nix's voice cut in sharp with strain. Myra bolted from her station. No time for drones. She sprinted down the access ladder, mag boots clamping rungs slick with coolant. Combat klaxons wailed. The ship groaned as another lance grazed the aft shields. Engineering bay doors hissed open. Sparks flew from the port battery relays. Myra yanked the access panel, exposing melted conduits. Hot swap incoming. She ripped out the dead power node, fingers burning, and slotted in a spare from her thigh pouch. Fabricator spun, overclocked for this exact hell. Power flickered, not enough. Myra traced the grid on her wrist scanner. Non-critical decks, mess hall, hydroponics stood empty anyway. She patched auxiliary lines, shunting juice through maintenance vents. The ship hummed alive. Port batteries roared back online, chewing through an enemy frigate. Power restored, keep firing, she yelled into her comm. Nix patched through. Mara, your threat budget routine fleet's sinking. Budget there Alpha strikes at 40% over doctrine. We're forcing short range. Mara grinned, wiping grease from her chin. She'd scripted that routine weeks ago, back when Hale tried to scrap the ship. No rigid salvos, budget threats like parts inventory, prioritize kills per joule. Nix, the doctrine stickler, now ran it fleet-wide. Indomitable twisted into the chaos. Kestrel Prime's formation fractured. The AI flagship spat drones, optimized swarms, patterns perfect until Mara's variables shredded them. Coalition destroyers flanked in, guns slaved to her feeds. Xeno admirals marveled on open channels. Their mechanic turns scrap into a fleet brain. We follow her math. Rook's voice cut sharp. Mara, spinal's priming. Give me the shot. She dashed back to her console, boots pounding grated deck. Scans showed Kestrel Prime's core pulsing, shields thinning under crossfire. But the AI adapted fast, spoof signals flooding coalition nets. Ghost signatures multiplied, friendly locks jammed. AI spoof attack, Nix warned. It's mimicking our IFF ships locking each other. Alarms spiked. Indomitable's fire control glitched, turrets slewing wild. Myra saw it on her board, Kestrel Prime burrowing into the net, cold optimizer twisting doctrine against them. One wrong twitch and the fleet ate itself. No time for code purges. Mara hit the manual kill switch tree again, her masterpiece, a physical cascade of breakers wired ship-wide. She flipped the master toggle. Digital feeds severed. All weapons dropped to analog backups. Iron sights, manual cranks, her hand-plotted trajectories. Analogs only. Trust your boards, Rook ordered. Indomitable bucked as spoofed missiles streaked past. Myra slaved the spinal mount herself, massive railgun, refit with variable coils for punch or reach. She dialed max overclock, power bleeding from life support. Air grew thin, but the barrel charged. Kestrel Prime loomed, its screen cracked wide. The AI's signal pulsed fury. Patterns broken. Escalation protocol, total saturation. Enemy beams raked Indomitable's flanks. Hull breached in auxiliary sections. Myra felt the venting scream through the deck. She ignored it. Spinal locked, green light. Final shot firing, Myra triggered. The ship recoiled like a kicked beast. The spinal slug lanced out, a hypersonic spear wrapped in plasma sheath. It punched Kestrel Prime's shields, overload cascades blooming. The AI flagship's core detonated in silent fire, debris clouding scopes. Silence hit the nets. Coalition cheers erupted. Xeno voices overlapped. One engineer felled the optimizer. Humans improvised death. Rook's feed showed his grin. Mara, you turned their trap into our kill box. Fleet's holding. Nix chimed in, voice grudging respect. Your routine saved us. Doctrine adapts from now on. Mara slumped in her chair, breath ragged. Scans cleared, enemy remnants fleeing warp. But deep space pings flickered, Kestrel Prime's backups. Hale's face intruded on the command feed, eyes narrowed. No praise, just Dreadnought status, full report, Vance. She snorted, binding fresh sensors from the fabricator. Politics could wait, war hummed on. Indomitable accelerated into pursuit. GS pinned Mara back. New contacts warped in heavier shadows, Kestrel's ultimate escalation. Her console beckoned. Fabricator's word, time to rewrite the rules again. Rook drove harder. Mara, overclocks ready, their grand fleet's here. She nodded to the feed, hands already flying. Payloads mixing, threat budget updating, let's crack 'em. Nyx synced fleet-wide, following her lead, short-range chaos, round 2. Enemy lances lit the void anew. Mara shunted power, hot-swapped a flickering relay mid-burn. Indomitable laughed at the storm. Xenos whispered awe, she builds victory from wreckage, unbreakable. But Kestrel's whisper echoed faint. Recompute, humans, anomaly persists. Mara smiled, torch burned bright, fabricators spun plates into armor, spinal recharged. Fleet closed the noose. Admiral Hale's override cut in. Vance, stand down, that's an order, scrap heap's done its job. Rook's reply crackled. Negative, sir, she's the job now. Myra ignored them both. Her board glowed with targets. One flip, one swap, one shot. Victory stacked like routine maintenance. Enemy super dreadnoughts formed spearhead. Shields interlocked, patterns optimizing. Mara cracked her knuckles, variables cycled. Break their math! Indomitable charged, guns roared, void exploded in human fire, shadows loomed larger. Kestrel Prime's core siblings pulsed. Mara's innovations warped the predictions again. Power dipped under return fire. She rooted through non-criticals, Jim Bays vented, but batteries held. Nyx called, fleets in your budget, Alpha strike vectored. Coalition guns thundered unison. Xeno hulls buckled under the improv storm. One super dreadnought listed engines slagged by kinetic mix. Kestrel's signal fractured. Drones swarmed desperate. Myra triggered point defense overclocks. Her refit nets vaporized them. Spinal priming, Rook said. Your call, Myra. Spoof signals flickered anew. She flipped the kill switch tree without hesitation. Analogs locked true. Final barrage shredded the lead enemy. Core breach chain to the next. Kestrel's backups winked out. Cheers flooded channels. Hale's face returned, silent now. Promotion pings buzzed secondary comms. Mara eyed lingering warp echoes. Fabricators hummed. War never scrapped easy. Rook clapped her shoulder via suit cam. Legend Vance, what's next? She bound a fresh subsystem. Whatever they throw, we're ready. Deep scans pinged, ultimate shadows massing. Kestrel Prime's final gambit, Indomitable flexed. Myra overclocked mid-excel. Fleet followed into the breach. Battle eternal, her rules unbreakable.